Thank you for joining us for our series dedicated to the 2014 Standards for Accreditation. As part of their membership, Middle States accredited institutions must demonstrate that they meet or exceed the expectations for academic and institutional integrity and quality promoted through the 2014 Standards for Accreditation and Requirements of Affiliation. This module will share the expectations relating to Standard 1, Mission and Goals. After viewing this video, we hope that you will become familiar with the 2014 Standards for Accreditation, be able to assess the institutional compliance using criteria from Standard 1, understand what documentation will be useful in demonstrating compliance with Standard 1, be able to articulate the role of assessment as it relates to Standard 1, and better understand the Commission's requirements of affiliation and how they relate to Standard 1. While the Commission has many relevant resources to assist you and your colleagues with demonstrating compliance with the standards and requirements of affiliation, the focus of this presentation will come from the Commission's publication, Standards for Accreditation and Requirements of Affiliation, the 13th edition. You can find this on the Commission's website and download a PDF version if you do not have a hard copy. This presentation will focus on Standard 1, which can be found by turning to page 4. In total, the process for ensuring compliance relies on a determination that an institution has demonstrated that it is in compliance with the Commission's 15 requirements of affiliation and 7 standards for accreditation. Compliance with both the requirements of affiliation and standards for accreditation is expected to be continuous. Institutions are, in most instances, comprehensively evaluated on both the requirements of affiliation and standards for accreditation at the time of their self-study evaluation. Institutions will be evaluated according to the requirements, standards, and their criteria within the context of institutional mission. This slide lists the Commission's 15 requirements of affiliation. You can find the requirements of affiliation on pages 2 and 3 of the 2014 Standards for Accreditation and Requirements of Affiliation Guide. Note that 2 of the requirements in particular, number 7, Mission and Goals, and number 10, Institutional Planning, are directly related to Standard 1. Some requirements of affiliation will be addressed within the self-study document, while others may be addressed through some other compliance mechanism. This slide provides you with one recommended approach for aligning the requirements of affiliation likely to be addressed in the self-study document with the appropriate standards. This is one approach of many. However, the appropriate linkages are made between the requirements of affiliation and the standards. Put another way, institutions can and will address various requirements of affiliation in the self-study report itself, as this chart demonstrates. Institutions working to demonstrate compliance with requirements of affiliation 7 and 10 can do so successfully by addressing them partially in a well-written, analytically based self-study section that addresses Standard 1. Consistent with the guiding principles of the Commission, mission-centeredness, student learning, innovation, and continuous improvement, it is important to note that both the requirements of affiliation and standards for accreditation stress that institutions are expected to demonstrate that they engage in assessment processes that regularly inform continuous quality improvement, overall institutional effectiveness, and the effective management of student learning. Institutions will need to include within their self-study materials how the criteria within each standard is met, as well as how the relevant requirements of affiliation are also met. It is important to remember, however, that when an institution demonstrates that it meets Standard 1, it must also demonstrate how it complies with these relevant requirements of affiliation. This may or may not require a separate analysis within the self-study document, but a clear indicator addressing the appropriate requirements of affiliation will be necessary. Some institutions have provided headings that include references to specific requirements of affiliation, or have footnoted or offset notations in the margins of the self-study document to indicate that the analysis provided also speaks to and demonstrates compliance with the appropriate requirement of affiliation. While the Commission is not prescriptive in terms of how compliance is documented, institutions have to be mindful of the appropriate alignment of the requirements of affiliation with the standards and clearly indicate to the evaluation team where that has been satisfied in the self-study document. Accompanying and consistent with the requirements of affiliation are the Commission's standards for accreditation. Now let's review the language and criteria of Standard 1. Standard 1. Mission and Goals. The institution's mission defines its purpose within the context of higher education, the students it serves, and what it intends to accomplish. The institution's stated goals are clearly linked to its mission and specify how the institution fulfills its mission. The institution's mission defines the scope of the institution and delineates its character and individuality. The mission statement may also articulate values as appropriate. The institution's basic purpose, such as research or community engagement, should be addressed within the statement of the mission. In addition to the mission, an effective institution has clearly articulated goals that are aligned with the mission. Institutional goals are ideally expressed as outcomes and in terms that are capable of being evaluated as part of an institutional assessment process. Goals should be sufficiently flexible to enable the institution to respond to internal and external opportunities and changes. In what follows, the various criteria that constitute Standard 1, Mission and Goals, will be explained. This standard has a total of 4 criteria, which are noted on this slide in general terms. Several criterion have additional components that you can find in the Commission's publication, Standards for Accreditation and Requirements of Affiliation, the 13th edition. As you review the criteria, you and your colleagues should be thinking about resources that are available at the institution that could be relied upon to demonstrate compliance with each criterion. These can be policies, procedures, or other types of evidence that would demonstrate during the review that the institution meets the criteria. Criterion 1 requires institutions to have clearly defined mission and goals. The mission statement should be developed by broad representation from all sectors of the institution. The mission statement should be based on an analysis of internal and external forces affecting the institution and provide a framework for ongoing institutional development and self-evaluation. Internal forces could include students, faculty, staff, administration, or governing boards. External forces could include the state, the region, the federal government, or other stakeholders. An institution's mission statement should be formally ratified and supported by its primary governing body. A key goal for a governing body is to enable the institution to fully realize its stated mission and goals in an effective manner. Clear mission statements and accompanying goals, when used to guide planning processes, allow an institution to continue to meet its purposes while supporting the opportunity for change and renewal. Within the framework of an institution's educational mission and goals, faculty and other qualified professionals are supported in their pursuit of scholarship and creative activity. The institution's mission statement provides the basis for expectations in these areas. An institution's mission and goals should be widely known by its members. An institution should consider processes and policies used to disseminate the mission and goals to faculty, staff, students, and members of the governing body. Efforts should be made to maintain awareness of and continuing commitment to the institution's mission. Is the mission well known? What are the institution's goals? Where can one find this information? Finally, the effectiveness of an institution is measured by how well it achieves its goals and fulfills its mission. In order to demonstrate effectiveness, it is imperative that an institution periodically evaluate its mission and goals. For example, how frequently does the institution evaluate the mission? How do you know the institution is achieving the mission? Where are the elements of the mission measured, and how periodically? Some institutions are quite strong in terms of assessment practices in this regard, while others may need to better structure this. These standards require that assessment practices such as these be established. Goals should never be developed in isolation from the mission. Goals provide a roadmap to help an institution achieve its mission and measure its progress. While an institution is expected to aspire to excellence, it is also expected to operate within realistic goals reflective of mission, financial, human, and physical resources. When reviewing an institution's goals, some key questions or considerations to include are the goals aligned with the mission? Are they achievable? Goals should be focused on the student learning experience and the full range of services offered by an institution and ensure that the institution succeeds in educating its students. That is, institutional goals should be consistent with the mission, focus on student achievement, and lead to institutional improvement. As already noted, institutions must demonstrate the effectiveness of their mission and goals through periodic assessment. This final criterion, assessing effectiveness, is consistent for all standards. This criterion requires institutions not just to do assessment, but to use assessment results for continuous improvement. Are the institution's mission and goals still relevant? What do assessment results tell you about the institution's ability to fulfill its mission? The fundamental question in the accreditation process is the institution fulfilling its mission and achieving its goals? Periodically and systematically assessing the mission and goals is essential to answering that question. The Commission does not prescribe a specific approach or methodology, but does expect each institution to determine and demonstrate that it successfully fulfills its mission, and in fact, to demonstrate that it meets all of the Commission's standards for accreditation through the lens of its mission. With periodic assessment like this included in every standard, institutional assessment practices continue to be critical. The Commission expects institutions to engage in sound assessment that lends to institutional improvement. The next slide provides you with basic, key questions relating to assessment within this standard. Again, assessment is embedded within every standard. Key questions regarding the assessment taking place related to the mission and goals: is the process meaningful? To what extent do stakeholders trust what information is in front of them? How well are the assessments directly related to mission and goals? Is the process useful? After receiving the assessment information, how engaged are key institutional stakeholders in using the information to enhance the mission and goals, to consider shifts in services or programs, or in other areas that could impact the mission and goals? What are the ties from the assessment practices to the institutional planning, resource allocation, and institutional effectiveness evaluations? Is the process cost-effective and efficient? Is the process efficient enough to be worth the effort? To what extent has assessment become an ordinary process as opposed to being a burden? Can multiple stakeholders attest to how the assessment process has added value to their professional practice? These are important questions that, when answered, can enable institutions to continuously improve the student experience, ensuring that the institution's mission and goals are maximized and sustained over time. Having reviewed all of the criteria, it is important to come back to and reflect upon the language of the standard. These criteria taken together specify the characteristics or qualities that encompass Standard 1, Mission and Goals. Alongside the standard itself, these criteria should be considered holistically within the context of the institutional mission. Remember, the criteria do not represent a checklist. However, they embody the areas that institutions are expected to address as part of their accreditation activities to align evidence against the standard. The language of the standard should not be lost within the criteria, and institutions should demonstrate how they embody the language of the standard as well as have policies, procedures, and other documentation relating to each of the criterion. Let's focus on evidence for a moment. This slide provides you with a list of possible policies, procedures, and documentation that institutions may use to demonstrate that they meet this standard. This list does not imply that these are the required documents, nor does it imply that these are the only documents. What the Commission wants to convey is that it will be critically important for you and your colleagues to determine what evidence, in the form of policies, procedures, and other documentation, exist at the institution to provide evidence of effectiveness, institutional improvement, and compliance under this standard. References to and the use of the mission statement and goals are often vital parts of these processes. What other processes on campus grow out of the mission and goals? Aligning institutional evidence alongside each of the criterion lends to a gap analysis that can be done to determine where resources may need to be developed, better documented, or updated. Current practice and process at the Commission is to capture institutional evidence in what we call a documentation roadmap. This is a template document that provides institutions with a listing of the criteria with each standard, with an accompanying empty box for institutions to fill in with their evidence. It is a document that allows for an institution to conduct a gap analysis quickly and easily, and serves as a tool for gathering evidence. Again, because the criteria are listed along with the requirements of affiliation, this template will promote resource and evidence gathering in an organized and methodical manner designed to support the accreditation activities. The documentation roadmap template is available on the Commission's website for you to download. In addition to these videos on the standards, the Commission hosts a variety of activities online and face-to-face designed to keep you informed about our expectations, support the activities of member institutions, and provide you with avenues to collaborate with colleagues across the region. These include webinars, workshops, training for peer evaluators, as well as our annual conference. If you have ideas about specific opportunities that you would like to see the Commission support, please contact us to let us know. You can find additional information about the Commission through our website, including how to reach staff. If you have any questions about the information presented in this video, please contact your staff liaison at Middle States. Every member institution is assigned a staff liaison. To find who's been assigned to your institution, visit our website, click on Institutions, find your institution listed, and click on Detail View. Other information about your institution is available through the link Statement of Accreditation Status, which is below the Detail View link.